All right, welcome back everybody to another episode of the Bad MMA Math Breakdown. We had such a whale of a time last time that we're back again with Making the Walk MMA for UFC Fight Night. I think it's 86. I lost track of them for a little bit there. And it's the Apex again, right?
Yeah, your favorite.
I'm overjoyed. I'm overjoyed. Anyway, how you doing, brother?
Man, I'm good, man. You know what? I always lose track of the number of the UFC Vegases, because it's like when I go to tweet, I'm like, okay, well, what did everybody else say? And I'm always like starting to tweet something that already happened in the past. UFC Vegas 76, and it's like we're on 80 something. Like, it's always bizarre.
Yeah, I thought we were on like 88 or 89, and I've done like a pretty good job listing them, but still can't seem to get my head around it. All right, anyway, so last week's card turned out to be a decent one. We managed to kind of break even on that one, so hopefully we can do better this week. I think this is a better card. We got some great matchups. This time we're just going to let things flow, and we're going to do one long video. So we're going to have the prelims and the main card together. As always, like and subscribe here if you haven't already. Check out Making the Walk MMA on Twitter and on YouTube. So let's get straight into the action. All right, so opening fight on the card, we have a bantamweight scrap between Marcos and Aori QILENG. Nice little scrap, this one. As you know, I always talk about bantamweight being one of the most skilled divisions in the sport. And this one, I think I'm going to take Daniel Marcos. He is the favorite for this one. I don't think it's necessarily too straightforward. I do like Marcos as the more technical striker, and I think he's going to land more effectively throughout this fight. I will say, though, that the Mongolian murderer is very good at applying pressure. He's very experienced, and he does have the ability to shut the lights out if he does connect. What makes this one kind of interesting for me, they're both the same height, they both got the same reach. And as basic as this is, you know, we've seen QILENG hurt a lot more, and we haven't really seen that from Marcos. So I think I like the Peruvian to outstrike QILENG here and maybe even get a late finish. You know, he moves well, uses a lot of variety. He applies a lot of kicks, especially. And QILENG, I just think, is more one-dimensional. You know, I like that the Peruvian beat Davy Grant. I mean, it was kind of in slim fashion, but I rate the Brit highly. I think it's a smart fight to put first on the card as well. And hopefully it should set this card off in the right tone. But yeah, I'm going to take the Peruvian in this one.
Yeah, I have to echo that. Only slightly. I think that the Mongolian murderer, like, come on, like that's a dope ass name.
That is a dope ass name.
You know, to your point, like, I think he can definitely shut the lights off. But Marcos has been through it with Davy Grant, and Davy Grant, you know, just like you rate him highly, I do as well. I think that Marcos has a little bit more of a test or more tests that he's been through and came out with flying colors, or at least with a C like he did the past one. So he passed. So I think that Marcos is the experience of going through these things is going to get him the win. Not to mention he is more multi-dimensional than the murderer over there. So I don't think he gets the murder done. I think Marcos walks away with it, but I do think it's going to be a decision. I think Marcos is going to do just enough to skate away and not stay in any sort of situation that's going to get him clipped. Yeah,
I fully agree. I think he's a smart fighter, and I think he's going to, you know, he's going to stay out of the danger zone. So I quite like him to do that one. And the decision's a very likely outcome for me as well. All right, so fight number 2. We've got a featherweight fight. We've got a late replacement. in Fernie Garcia versus Haida AMIL. I think it was Melsick who was supposed to be in this one, but apparently he dropped out for whatever reason. I haven't bothered to check. Don't really care. I actually don't think AMIL is very good, if I'm being honest. You know, he does have an unbeaten records, and I think the bookies obviously know this. You know, Fernie's also on a 3-fight losing streak, and he is coming up from bantamweight on short notice. And he's still barely an underdog. So, you know, that kind of says a lot about how people are seeing things. I do think AMIL is going to be the bigger man in there, naturally. Mm-hmm. He should be stronger. He should hit a bit harder. I think Fernie is more well-rounded in there, and he's got bags more experience. I think Fernie is like a typical tough Mexican fighter. He's going to be hard to get out of there. So I'm actually going to edge Fernie to win this one. I think the official pick I'm going to take, though, is I think it will hit the over, plus 2.5. That's what I'm officially going for. Because I think there's going to be a lot of clinching in this one. I think that's going to drain the clock. And I think the unknowns with Fernie at the weight class and Emil's lack of overall skill, I can see this being scrappy and go into the judges' scorecards. So that's my official pick. I think Fernie will edge it, but plus 2.5 is what I'm going for.
Yeah, not a bad pick. I also lean that way, and the reason I do is because of where Fernie trains. He trains out of Fortis MMA here in Dallas, and so I know that Saif Saeed is going to have him ready to go. Despite jumping up in weight class, he's not going to allow any of his fighters to jump in there without having that knowledge and being ready. And AMIL, to me, he just isn't dangerous. Like he's just not. He's not. I mean, his nickname is the Hurricane, but I don't really see that. I see a couple of, little sprinkles. Maybe a little bit of hail, but not a hurricane.
A light breeze, yeah.
Yeah, a light smattering of rain, but I don't see a hurricane, and I think that Fernie's going to do. You know what? Fernie might knock his ass out. I wouldn't be shocked.
I would not be shocked.
He might catch this dude. Like, I just think that I don't think that Hyder is good as his record indicates. Where does he come from? The Contender Series? Like,
yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
Nah.
And he didn't exactly pull up trees there either.
No.
I remember.
No. So, yeah, I think that Fernie gets it done. He might get it done in spectacular fashion.
It wouldn't surprise me. He's a very tough guy. And like I said, it's always the competition disparity that concerns me. And I just think bantamweights, I don't think featherweight is an unskilled division by any means. But I think bantamweights are generally more well-rounded. So...
yeah, man, they got the pop of the featherweights and they got the skill of the flyweights.
That's exactly how I see it. So yeah, I think it's a decent dog to pick up. So yeah, I'm gonna be taking him. All right, so fight number 3, we've got a light heavyweight scrap between PAUGA and GUSKOV. Now, GUSKOV for me is another example of when tin can crushers get found out. He was knocking heads off in the regionals, finally makes it to the UFC. Now, we did get a really tough debut with Volkan Oezdemir, who kind of showed him there's levels and absolutely beat the brakes off him. He did have a little moment of adversity, but then took over and smashed the shit out of him. PAUGA, though, is actually kind of I'd say a considerable step down in competition. And he probably should have been the kind of guy that GUSKOV should have been coming in against in the first place. So it kind of feels like we've been reset a little bit here. And I think the UFC recognizes that. I'm actually going to stay away from this one in terms of betting because I think somebody is likely to get chinned here. It's just kind of a question of who lands first, who lands hardest. So a smart one might be to take the under here if you're going to bet it. PAUGA getting chinned by Mohammed Usman does not make me feel good. he is pretty hard to knock out generally, and I do think he's more durable. I think he's going to revert to a clinch game here, and I think he's going to drain GUSKOV a little bit. You know, PAUGA's not afraid to put the crowd to sleep. And I think he's going to take what GUSKOV has to offer, and then I think he's going to take over, and I think he's going to finish the fight later. GUSKOV's shown he can be a really good hammer, but a terrible nail, and I think PAUGA's going to get this one done. I'm going PAUGA.
Yeah, I think I would go Zach as well, but I don't think he finishes anything. I think that he just pushes him up against the cage, and if he gets him down, lays on him, tries to zap his energy to try to finish the fight later on, but I don't think he gets it done. I think that this is the standard go and get your refreshments fight. This is not the one to you got the dude from Moana against against a knockoff Anthony Smith. It's not gonna work. I don't think they were gonna stay for this one. He does somehow look
like an uglier Anthony Smith. I didn't think that was possible, but now that I'm picturing his face,
Anthony's my guy, but this dude looks like Anthony Smith for sure. Maybe Anthony Smith
I love Anthony
has some
Smith,
lineage from
Russia. I don't
Russia.
like to admit that. Yeah, he's the Russian guy, Anthony Smith.
Yeah. But nah, he's not going to be successful in this fight because Zach's not going to allow him to be successful. But Zach is also not going to be successful in this fight. It's going to be boring. And but Zach is going to walk out with a win, and Bogdan can go back and crush some more cans.
I think that is a very likely outcome. I do like the way you're looking at this. The only reason why I feel like PAUGA might get it done is because I think GUSKOV has a tendency to really wilt under pressure, which is why I kind of feel like a late finish might be possible. But man, I can't disagree with the way you're looking at this. All right, now fight number 4. We've got a welterweight scrap between Wells and Griffin. Now, this is kind of where the card really starts for me.
Yeah.
And I think the placement of it is an utter disrespect. I'm actually going to go with Griffin here as the underdog. And I have a few reasons why I'm edging him. I think he's faced better competition. You know, he got a split with Magny that was very close, who I know people shit on that guy, but he's a difficult out. He had a pretty close fight with Spider-Man, not Peter Parker, you know, the other one.
Mike
I think
Morales.
he's got these Mike Morales. I always think that whenever I see him, I just think, Spider-Man. I'm immature. No, you know, we know how I am.
But it's an accurate assessment.
It's accurate. Yeah, I think he's got decent takedown defense as well, and I think he scrambles quite well. I also like the level of volume that he puts on. You know, I think Wells, what worries me about him is sometimes he can be less active, and he's more liable to try and clinch and slow things down. Both men are capable of cracking, like we both know that. I'm kind of feeling inclined to take this to go over 1.5 as well, because there seems to be a belief in Vegas that someone's going to get bonged out in the first round, which I'm not so sure about. They seem to think someone's going to get cracked early, and I don't think that's going to happen. I haven't really learnt my lesson from Molly McCann's fight last week. So yeah, I'm kind of, if I'm betting, I'm taking the over 1.5, but I think that Max Griffin might edge it in what I expect to be a really close fight that will be hard to judge on the scorecards. I think there's going to be I think it's going to be a decent fight. It's a very good matchup. I like Max Griffin just that little bit better. I don't trust Wells, especially after his last fight. You know, that was not a good look.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I think what it is for me with this fight and what makes it hard, the deeper we get into this particular space, is like you start to interact with some of these fighters, and like I know Max Griffin, so it's hard to bet against him. But it's not just that. I feel like even though they're around the same age, I think that his experience is going to get him over in this one. Like you said, Jeremiah likes to grab and hold and kind of drain the clock, so to speak. Even though he has big power, he doesn't know how to really set things up in that way. And I think that Max Griffin, because of who he's been in there with, I mean, he's been in there with Carlos Condit and who else? Mike Morales. You know, the young guns coming up. Like, he's been in there with tons of people that have taught him lessons, good or bad. So I think that he's going to teach Jeremiah Wells a lesson or two in this one. I don't think that this one. You said that they had Vegas has it being finished before a round and a half. That's silly. No, I don't see that. I don't see that.
I think it's because they both carry a little bit of power, and but neither man really gets finished, and certainly not on the feet.
No,
like, they don't get cracked that often.
If anybody finishes the fight early, it'll be Wells. I think Max is going to take his time a little bit and figure things out, and then start to overwhelm him later on. That's not to say that he won't get a finish, but it won't be in a round and a half. That's crazy. But I am taking Max Griffin in this one as well, to right the ship. And it's his last fight of his contract as well, so he's got a little bit more on the line.
And he, you know, it's like you said, he's been around for a long time. You know, he's 38 years old. I mean, Wells is not much younger, but Griffin doesn't feel like an old 38.
Not at all.
Makes sense. He's not like
this is his what is his 30th fight too?
Crazy. He's been around. I like him in this one, and I hope he wins as well. I just think he's more entertaining to watch.
For sure.
All right, so fight number 5. Light heavyweight, we've got Clark and Prachnio. We kind of got a typical smothering wrestler here versus a pure striker. You know, Clark basically operates by trying to get people down, land, ground and pound. He uses the fence clinch a lot. And I think he's going to have a lot of success in this regard against Prachnio. Prachnio seems to do pretty well when he's given time, like to work at range, uses kickboxing, you know, to splat the legs, land body kicks. And I think that might work against him in this one on this night. To be clear, I don't really rate Devin Clark very highly at all, but I think stylistically this is a pretty good one for him. You know, kickboxers tend to leave themselves more exposed to takedowns because, you know, obviously very kick heavy, often uses that kick to the body, and Devin Clark's pretty good at grabbing a kick, using that as an entry point. And Prachnio's not the quickest at whipping that kick. You know, I think he's got decent range and decent variety, but he's not the quickest. And I think at some point Clark's going to take him down and he's going to wear him out. Now, what does worry me about Clark is he does have a little bit of a suspect chin, but I don't think Marcin is a KO kind of guy. You know, he's more volume, point heavy. And again, I think that's going to play into Clark's hands. You know, once he takes him down, Marcin's going to be like a fish on a bicycle down there. And I think Clark's going to keep him down and he's going to hurt him. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this went all 3, but I kind of like Clark for a finish here. I think he might get it, and I think it will be later on. But I can see it being by ground and pound and just wearing him out.
Yeah, this one's tough for the reasons that you stated. When I watched Devin Clark, when I thought that Devin Clark was going to start to make an ascent, he showed me why he's going to be stuck where he is, and it's because you know what his striking reminds me of? What we just saw, Roman Dolidze. It's never really crisp. Like, a lot of fighters, you see them crisp in the first rounds, and as they get tired, they get, you know, more and more sloppy. But his is never really crisp. He has a lot of power. He's a big, strong dude. His legs are massive. And I think that because of those attributes, because of the style that he has, and because he's going to have his dad in the corner yelling at him, I think that he's going to be able to overwhelm Marcin Prachnio from a grappling standpoint. He's just going to, if this was a 5-round fight, I would actually pick Prachnio because I think that Devin would get tired. But because it's not, I think it's going to be Devin Clark. And you know what? I'll go even further and say that Devin's going to win rounds 1 and 2 and lose round 3.
I like
just
that.
Survive. That's just kind of how he fights, and that's kind of why he's going to be stuck right where he is until he develops some sort of striking game, because he has power, but you know, what good is power if you can't really put it on somebody's chin? So yeah, I got a good Devin cases too.
I agree. I think it's one of those cases where maybe getting a new striking coach might be the way to go for him, because you're right, there is something missing there in terms of just that crispness. And
yeah,
I think it's going to be enough to get it done in this one. And I don't think PRACHNIO is a bad fighter at all. I just think from a stylistic standpoint, I like Devin in this one, but that chin does worry me.
He's chinny for sure.
Very chinny. Yeah. All right. Next one up, we've got strawweight, and we've got Loma LOOKBOONME versus Bruna Brazil. Not bad for a women's fight. I'm gonna have to go. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Loma in this one. I think she's very well rounded. You know, she's got really good varied striking, which you tend to get from Thai fighters anyway. You know, they tend to be raised in that kind of way. You know, very diverse. She's also very strong for her size, and she's pretty devastating in the clinch. You know, I think, you know, what I quite like about her is when she takes girls down, she does it with authority, and she doesn't just lay there and scissor, which I'm not sure if I appreciate or not. Now that I think about it, you know, I'm down for a little bit of scissoring every now and then. And I think Bruna's just mid, man. I don't mean to sound like an arsehole here, but she, you know, the thing is though, like when you look at the two of them in the cage, Brazil is going to look huge next to Loma. You know, she's 5 inches taller. But I just think that Loma is far more tenacious, and I think she's far more skilled, far more well-rounded. Now, the only loss she's had in her last 5 is to Lupi Godinez, which ain't a bad loss, and it was a close one.
Yeah, it's not a bad.
I just think Loma's got more ways to win, and I can see her grabbing like a clear UD, or maybe like a late sub, maybe, which might be the play. You know, kind of.
I think
against my religion a little bit, but yeah, I like that one. I like Loma to get it done. I think she's good for this
man. In this one, I really tried to go Bruna Brazil. I was like really looking for reasons to give it to her, but I just couldn't find any. Like she, I mean, there's like her nickname is the special one, but there's not a lot special about her game, at least right now.
Depends what you mean by special. You know, that can be interpreted in a number of ways, my friend.
That's true. It can be. It can be. But I think that, you know, Loma she's scrappy, man. Like, I feel like Lupi should have got her out of there, and because that's just a testament of how good Loma is, and the fact that she's got that Thai background, and she mixes that in with you know, some of the takedowns that she does. Like, she's scrappy because she has to be. And this is a person who, in my opinion, would be a prime candidate for a women's 105 division, like an atomweight division. Like, she would kill in that division. But seeing as that we don't have that division yet, I still think she takes this fight as well. I don't think that she gets the finish. No, I don't think she gets to finish, but I think she definitely gets a decision, and it'll probably be a pretty convincing one. I don't think Bruna gets a round.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I just think Loma's just get us that tenacity.
I feel like up to this point, like almost all of these were kind of straightforward picks for the most part.
Well, it seems. I mean, we've got 6 for 6 so far. You know.
Yeah, they
seem to be
they
thinking
really
along
kind
the
of
same
are.
lines.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how it keeps going.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident about. I mean, it didn't feel like I had to put much. I wasn't too divisive either way. You know, it wasn't too difficult for the first 6, and I think, judging on your reaction, you're probably feeling the same way. It's a lightweight bout between Oki and HAZZOVIC. Now, I'm going to be honest. I did not know who the fuck Oki was, and I had to look into him a bit. I'm gonna be honest. Sound like a casual now, but like I've watched quite a few of his fights now. Had a chance to have a good look at him today, and I'm really glad I did. Like, this dude is an absolute monster. Like, really clean strikes, highly athletic, a lot of power, and comparatively, it's weird to say this about a lightweight, HAZZOVIC is quite plodding. He's a slow, like, shitty striker who is kind of a cling and pray type, you know. So maybe this is in hope, but I kind of want him to get bonged for being such a boring piece of shit. I felt like there was a little bit too much vitriol there. I mean, I've got nothing against the guy. He's just, yeah.
Do you know him?
You think I do, but like, no, I've got nothing against the guy. I just, for some reason, looking into both of them, I was like, I just felt this anger rising in me. And, you know, like what I've seen from Oki, I think he's younger. I think he's more powerful, and I think he's gonna beat the brakes off HAZZOVIC. You know.
Yeah.
I think this is gonna be set up as kind of like a notice me fight. I think Oki's gonna starch him, and I think it's gonna be a holy shit, this guy is good type situation.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
I definitely think that Demir is being fed to Oki for sure. It is one of those, like, when Oki signing the contract, Dana is saying, hey, look, we're going to give you this. This is going to be on TV. So you need to show your ass on this one. Like, you need to come out, knock this dude out, make sure he gets on SportsCenter. And I do think that he's going to take some chances. He's going to have to. But I think that he does get the knockout. Knockout second round. I think Oki gets it. Do you know what the line is on that, as far as like the over under?
I think the over under, I think, is more appealing than taking Oki straight up. I think it's, you know, it's favored to go under -1.5, obviously, but I think you can get that at like +125. I think, whereas you can get, I think Oki's at about -175, something like that, which again to me is a bit wild.
Yeah.
You know, this is one I'm really, really confident about. I think he's gonna knock his chin off. I think this is your lock. This is your lock of the card. One of them. I think I've got one coming up later that I'm really confident about as well. But that's one I'm really. Look at the dude, man.
Yeah.
Look at the dude. Look at who's if he's losing, he's not losing to a guy like HAZZOVIC. I'm saying that now.
Yeah, not that guy.
I'd be shocked. I mean, this sport doesn't really ever shock me too much now, but I'd be genuinely surprised.
And he doesn't have like the best, the most fan-friendly nickname, the Bosnian Bomber. I don't know. In America, you hear Bosnia and bomb, you're like, that's
why they're doing it at the
I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I'll take the
Zulu. A bit of foreshadowing there. It might be like, I tried to tell you, you know. Which is a welterweight scrap between Giles and Prates. Now, this is going to sound like a bit of a strange one, because I actually quite like Giles, you know, despite, you know, thinking anyone with the problem as their nickname is slightly retarded. You know, I think anyone that has the problem as their nickname is, it's not great. I don't like the stylistic
to the problem
matchup.
Child.
Yeah, I hate that. I just, anyone who calls himself the problem or the problem child, I've got no time for that shit. As I was gonna say, I think this is a really bad stylistic matchup for him, though. You know, I think Giles has decent power, but I think Prates is going to be more technical in the stand-up. I think he's way more diverse. I think he's way more clean. And I think what Giles tends to do when he gets into those kind of fights is he reverts to takedowns when the stand-up isn't going well for him. And I think that's where, you know, the problem, pun intended, is going to be for him here. You know, I think his ability to control on top is not amazing, and I think Prates has really good jiu-jitsu. So I think if Giles tries to take him down as a plan B, which I expect him to do if he's losing the striking battle, is then going to play into Prates' game as well. I just think Prates is way too well-rounded for Giles, who again, I don't think is a bad fighter at all. I like Giles. I think he's a very decent, well-rounded MMA fighter. And Nightmare is an equally shit nickname, by the way. I'm just going to throw that in there. You know, Prates has the reach, 4 inches on Giles, uses variety. He's got a range of kicks, he can change stances. And I really like his elbows. Not physically, I like the way he uses his elbows. It's going to make that clear.
You really got nice elbows, man.
Got nice elbows there, bro.
How'd you get those?
How'd you work those elbows? Yeah, I just think he's mean. I think he's mean, and I think he's going to beat Giles up.
So I am going to go Trevin Giles. And I think that what happens is the Nightmare, Carlos Prates gets a little bit overzealous and walks into something, and Trevin knocks his ass out. I think I'm going to take Trevin Giles by knockout. And it's not because of, I think that his skills are necessarily leaps and bounds better. I think that Trevin is, like, his last few fights, he's been so up and down. Like, he had a couple of wins that he strung together, but, he's been fighting some tough competition. He's been in there. When he was at middleweight, he fought Dricus du Plessis. He's fought Michael Morales, Gabriel Bonfim. Like, he's fought some folks. And I think that that's kind of made him more humble than he was before that, and a little bit more resilient when he gets in trouble. So I think that Carlos walks into something that he's not expecting by being the person that's trying to make a stamp. I think there's a reason that they put this where they put it in the card, to kind of show them off as well. And I think Trevin takes full advantage and knocks his ass out.
We will find out very, very soon. Like I said, this was one of the ones that was more difficult to pick for me because, as I said, I like Giles, and he is very capable of. And again, the competition disparity you brought up is stark. So, be interesting to see how it goes. All right, so onto the main card now. I don't know how I'm going to sort this out post, but we'll find a way. We'll do so now. So yeah, it's a middleweight fight between Petrosyan and Rodolfo Vieira. This one is my money pick of the evening. I think Rodolfo Vieira is so overrated. And I think just because he won so many Sambo titles, and he looks like an Adonis, he looks like the Hulk. I just think he's not an MMA fighter. I think his striking is really telegraphed. I think it's abysmal, to be perfectly honest. And he's got a horrendously bad gas tank. He's all muscle. And I think Petrosyan has a far superior stand-up game. He's an excellent kickboxer. He's got really good distance control. And I think in this one, he's going to play it smart. I think he's going to stay at range so that he can stay away from those half-witted takedown lunges, which Rodolfo Vieira seems to... Rodolfo Vieira's got really good submission game on the ground, but his takedowns are horrific. Like, he tends to lunge in. And I think Petrosyan is going to keep it at a safe distance. And I think even if he does manage to get it close, underrated takedown defense. And he doesn't stay on the ground and let himself get sat on. He's not going to sit there and get pounded out. And what shocks me in this one is Petrosyan's an underdog. And I'm jumping double foot first into the trap here. I think the win against Duncan was really impressive. He's got a much better gas tank. I don't see how Vieira wins this fight. I think he's a fucking balloon animal. I don't think he's built for MMA. And I can see this being a soundbite. I can see this coming back to bite me on the ass. But
I don't think so, man.
I'm so convinced.
I don't think so. I think you're right. I think Petrosyan gets this. I do see Vieira as being a specialist in the age of where MMA doesn't need specialists anymore. You have to have more than just that. His entries aren't great, and he is a monster on the ground if he gets it there. But like, Petrosyan's too smart. His fight IQ is just too high, and it's not going to allow him to be in those types of situations. So it might not be exciting, but Petrosyan's going to walk out with his hand raised for sure. I'm surprised that, like, when I saw the line on this one, I saw it as pretty close, and to me it didn't seem like it even needed to be close. It seemed like Petrosyan is almost for sure going to get this win, as long as he doesn't get on his back. They're gonna have to put some Vaseline on the floor or something like that for him to slip and fall, and then
the old banana skin.
Like, yep, something is gonna have to happen. But like, his nickname sucks, but like, other than that, I think that Petrosyan is gonna walk out with a victory on this one. I don't think he finishes him though. I think it's gonna be boring.
I think it would be boring as well. Like, they're both not exactly known for they're both known for putting on kind of excitement from the point of view that, you know, Vieira gasses out and then he's surviving, and then it's exciting from that point of view, like, oh my god, he's almost done. And but in terms of pure enjoyment from a technical standpoint,
yeah, not
really. I like Petrosyan in this one a lot. I think he's gonna get this. And again, I think it will be boring. I think it will probably be 3 rounds. He's not a knockout guy, but I think he's just going to pepper him, stay safe, and see out a pretty clear decision. It wouldn't surprise me if it was 29-28. You know, maybe he gets taken down at some point and loses a round off the back of it.
Yeah.
But I think he'll stay safe enough for 2 and just pepper him. I like that. All right, now this is an intriguing one. I'm not sure how you're going to feel about this one. It's a lightweight bout between Michael Johnson and Flowers. I'm going to be honest. I don't really understand this matchup. It seems a bit sort of random to me. You know, Flowers usually operates as a welterweight, and he's a pretty big one. You know, he's fought at middleweight in the past, especially when he was boxing. And now he's going down to lightweight now. You know, maybe the power is going to translate. You know, he does have power, very decent hands. And I think he looked very decent against Jake Matthews, who he fought at short notice. But then he obviously gassed out, then ended up getting choked out. Now, if this was prime Michael Johnson, I'd be 100% picking him without any hesitation, you know, in terms of the experience, the guys he's been in with. But I don't really know if he carries the same durability anymore, and this makes this one so much harder. I do expect Johnson to be really slick, as he always is. You know, he's got really good hands, good movement. But if the question is, if Flowers is able to walk through all that and take one to give one, he might end up chinning him. But, you know, with the unknowns on Flowers, you don't know how the weight cut's going to go. I feel like I need to edge Johnson, who is obviously more natural at this weight. I think he's good, but again, I can see this going 2 ways. I think he's either going to outpoint Flowers with activity, or he's going to get fucking chinned really horribly. Which, you know, from a betting perspective, makes this very, very difficult. But, you know, I'm going to go with the former. I think Johnson's going to do it. I don't have much confidence. I just think he's going to land more in every round. And I think he's been chinned so often lately that I think he's going to be a bit more cautious here, and he's going to try and point fight to win. I also think lightweights are more skilled than welterweights generally. So I think
True.
You ain't getting my money on this one, though. I'm not betting on this shit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I would stay away from this one. But like, here's the thing. Michael Johnson, his speed, he has not lost his speed. Somehow he still has it at, you know, 37 years old. He still has it. Yeah, some around along those lines. Like, but and I also feel like if Flowers, if his plan is to try to take one to give one, I do think that Michael will knock his ass out. I don't think that he's lost any of his pop either. But like you said, what he has lost is durability, and you know, maybe those weight cuts down to featherweight kind of zapped him. you know, getting knocked out in the ways that he have zapped him. But I think that he's a smarter fighter now. And I think that all of those wars, this is his 41st fight. I think that he's learned a lot, and I think that he's going to put himself in a good position to win. He's not going to be looking for the highlight reel knockout. He's going to be, you know, trying to touch him, you know, let something go and then touch him. So I think that Michael Johnson wins this, but I do think that he gets a knockout in about the third. I think he finishes Flowers, who was, by the way, doing pretty well against Jake Matthews, but Jake Matthews he's a big dude, man. Like, he's like borderline massive middleweight, you know. So him stepping up on short notice at that point was amazing. And not to mention, he's only 5'9", and that, of course, is going to affect your reach. So this is no shot at Flowers. I just think that Johnson just has more skin in the game and more skin on the wall when it comes to executing this stuff, and he's gonna get him out of there.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad shout, just purely because, again, we've seen Flowers gas. I know it was on short notice, but he does tend to fade as fights go on, and I think he's going to be going for Johnson's head here, and I think you've got a point. I think that might end up being a mistake, because Johnson does hit, and it's more that it's, you know what they say about getting struck, it's the strikes you don't see, or the strikes you don't expect that tend to put you down, and Johnson's made a very good career of doing that, where you think you're safe because he's tapping you away, and then he just hits you with he's got sneaky power for somebody who looks like a bit scrawny and a bit sort of, you know, he doesn't look like the most built guy, but he does pop. Yeah, I think it could be interesting.
He does. It is definitely that speed. I mean, you know, for anybody who doesn't remember, but go back to watch him fight Justin Gaethje, and Johnson lost that fight, but Gaethje remembers that fight. Ask him about Khabib. You know, ask Khabib about fighting Michael Johnson. He remembers the fight. He won, but he had to walk through some stuff to get there. So
he did. I think it's a good shout. I like that one. To be honest, I thought you were gonna call me crazy and go for Flowers, but you seem to be thinking along the same lines today. Let's see if we can keep this run going. All right, so the next fight, I think it's fight 11 on the card. I think if I'm keeping track here, middleweight, we've got RoboCop Rodriguez versus Brad Tavares. I'm actually quite intrigued by this one. And I have my concerns. I think the thing is for me here is obviously Rodriguez is the more explosive striker, and he obviously has the better BJJ. So the choice is kind of obvious, and I think the odds reflect that. I think you can get Rodriguez at about -220, which is kind of what I was expecting. The thing with Tavares, he's not particularly amazing at anything, but he's a very durable guy. You know, he has a tendency to drag fights into his style. You know, he makes it ugly. I think what makes me pull away from him a bit more in this one, that failure to finish Weidman in his last one, and maybe there was a little bit of mercy there, but I don't love that. So I'm going to pick Rodriguez just because I think it looks like Tavares has slowed down a little bit recently. You know, as I said, he looked very laboured against Weidman. He got chinned by Bruno Silva, which doesn't usually happen to him. Got dominated by Dricus, which, you know, there's no shame in that, of course. I just think RoboCop is a little bit more... Yeah, I think RoboCop is a little bit more patient these days. I think he's going to bide his time, and I think he's going to land hard on Tavares, whose chin isn't as great as it was. If this was Tavares 2 years ago, I might be making a different pick here, or at least saying there's more variables to consider. But I think Rodriguez has that X factor. You know, if Tavares takes him down to the ground, if he's losing the stand-up, Rodriguez has proven now he's willing to use that BJJ, and I just think he has more avenues to win. So I'm going to take RoboCop in this one.
Yeah, man, gatekeepers got to gatekeep, and Brad Tavares is a gatekeeper. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. He's the person that Izzy had to fight to get, to start to get the serious fight. Who else? Dricus had to fight him to get serious fights. He shut down, other contenders who wanted to get up there. So like, they're trying to see, all right, RoboCop, are you the real deal? So this is that test, and Brad is never anybody that you can walk through. Chris Weidman thought that, okay, this is the start of my comeback, gonna make this magical story, and Brad's not that guy. Brad is about 5 years older than RoboCop. You wouldn't know that by looking at them, but I think that RoboCop's youth, his ferocity, and just his style is going to overwhelm Brad, and yeah, he's going to knock him out. It's going to be terrible.
Yeah,
I feel.
And there's something very likable about RoboCop as well. I don't know what it is.
For real, I don't know what the man's saying.
Yeah, I don't get it.
You really just kind of. The only time that I've kind of rooted against him was against Chidi and Jikawani, and he almost lost that fight.
That
he had to come back in that one.
That cut was so bad. I think in a lot of other fights, that would have been enough to stop it. It's a hell of a fight as well. I mean, I think if he got to the end of the round, I think they would have looked at that and been like, we can see your brain. You need to get to the hospital immediately.
They would have saw his brain and there was nothing but little gears and stuff.
Gears and shit, yeah. And then they would have been, maybe they would have let him continue in that instance, the way the UFC is, I don't know.
Who knows?
But that was horrific. And to get through that, he's just likable. A likable guy. I like Tavares as well, but.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, if you are doing a promotion and you need somebody to take pictures in the fight kit, that's the guy. Pick him.
That's the guy.
He looks the part, but
he does.
But when it comes to this fight, RoboCop's gonna take this one.
I agree. All right, so the next one, we've got middleweight. We've got a late replacement again. We've got Ihor Poteria, who is fighting at middleweight for the first time in the UFC against, I'm going to pronounce it as BRYCZEK. I'm not sure if that's correct. Now, I'm not entirely sure why this one is the feature fight, because, well, maybe they kind of expect that someone's going to get chinned in this one and it's going to be flashy. That might be why they're putting it here, as a nice little sweetener before we get the co-main and the main. I'm going to go with the Polish fighter in this one. Again, I hadn't really seen too much of him. I don't really watch octagon fighting unless, again, doing a little bit of research. 5 KOs in a row in the organization. And, he's a very natural middleweight, shredded to hell, very powerful. And Poteria, for me, is a little bit more of a volume striker. And I don't like that, first of all, he's taken this on short notice, and also that he's cutting to middleweight. That seems dangerous to me. When I initially thought this was at light heavyweight, I was thinking, all right, he might have the natural size advantage here, but he's cutting against a guy that's been flatlining people for fun, albeit it is against lesser competition. But for me, because I can see arguments on both sides, the power versus the volume, and the fact that it's in the Polishman's weight class, I think he's going to be quicker. I think he's going to be more powerful at this weight class. And the only worry for me is I think he does need to get it done in the first 2, because if Ihor does manage to hang around, I can maybe see him taking over in the later stages. I can see the Pole taking the first 2, and if he doesn't get him out of there, I can see Ihor perhaps having a good third round. But yeah, I'm going to take the natural middleweight BRYCZEK. After seeing 5 chins on the ground and 5 asses in the air, I've got to pick him. It's too many asses.
Yeah, it's too many. Man, this one was tough because for all the things that you said, 5 KOs in a row, that's a lot. No matter what organization it's in. And Octagon, I mean, those dudes are violent over there. But I'm gonna take Ihor, and I don't really know why. I think that perhaps some of these losses maybe taught him something. I don't know. It's just a feeling. I feel like BRYCZEK just looks too much of the part, and I think that Ihor is gonna just outwit him. I think he'll just be smarter in there. It won't be pretty. It's not going to be fantastic. It won't be a finish. He's going to run away and touch him enough to where he walks out of there with a win. I'm not very confident about that, and I wouldn't bet on this with somebody else's money. But if I'm picking, I'm going to go Ihor Poteria.
Yeah.
I guess.
I guess. No, I think what made it difficult for me this one was it's the experience factor. You know, obviously Ihor has fought enough times in the UFC now, and I don't think people understand how important that is.
Yeah.
And like I said, if it was at light heavyweight, I'd probably be picking him. And I think where this might work for you is BRYCZEK, because he's so used to starching guys in the first round. What does he do if it doesn't happen this time?
Mm-hmm.
Like if he gets to the first round and he's swinging heavy and he's going for, you know, maybe he has a moment where he almost has him out of there. What happens if it doesn't come? We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very it's tricky, man. It's tricky.
And you know what? When Poteria was fighting Carlos Oberg, like I know that he got finished in the first round, but when the fight started, like you see Carlos Oberg, like he's going backwards, and that's how he fights. But Poteria had him, you know, on his heels, and I think that he's learned from the aggression that he had, because that's what ultimately got him knocked out, was aggression at the wrong time. I think that he's learned from that. I think. But again, I'm not very confident on that.
Yeah, when someone says I think, yeah, there's a bit of doubt there, definitely.
Yeah, and that is exactly why I would not bet on this fight, because I have no confidence in this man.
No, and again, I do think Ihor's pretty decent. So it should be a barn burner. Now it should be interesting. Now I've got a confession to make about this one. I didn't know this fight was happening. The co-main between Dan Ige and Andre Fili. Now I do have a little bit of an excuse for this one, because obviously Ige was scheduled to fight Leron Murphy. So I think again this is another late minute replacement thing. I do think it's a great fight. I've got no issue with it. Fili is a little bit of a journeyman, and he is a tough out. He's obviously well-rounded in his striking, uses distance well, and you always know that guys from Team Alpha Male are going to they can wrestle. They're going to bring wrestling pressure if they need to. I don't love this for him because it's short notice, which I think could be a problem. I mean, I think I probably would have picked Dan Ige anyway, in whatever circumstances they're going to be fighting in. I just think with Ige, he does look at times quite easy to take down, you know, when he's been fighting certain wrestlers, but he's very hard to keep down. And I just think he's a vicious little prick when things are standing. And I think if Fili's going to have success, he's going to need to play it at range, work the body with the kicks. And again, it's very similar to what I was saying earlier. I just think that at some point, Ige is going to step around at the right moment, and he will catch him on the chin at some point. And I think at the very least, it's either going to lead to a finish, or he's going to hurt him really badly, where it gets Fili second guessing everything that he's doing. I think when Ige catches you and he hurts you, he's really good at smelling blood in the water, and then either taking over from there or finishing. You know, he's very patient. You know, he's kind of a little bit like a steam train going downhill in that regard. When he gets momentum, he's very hard to stop. You know, he does have some losses in his career that were kind of disappointing. You know, he had an argument for beating Mitchell, I thought. I did think Mitchell edged that fight, and to be honest, it doesn't look like a fantastic loss now after what happened to Mitchell. But I think Ige is a bona fide top 10, 15 guy, and I think he's going to beat Fili here. Like, I'm undecided whether I'm going to bet it or not, because I do respect Fili, but I think Ige is going to get this done. Just like him.
Oh man, This
Okay,
one was
Nikkei.
so difficult. This one was so difficult. And I posted on X. It still feels weird saying that, but I posted on X. When this fight got announced, because I was very excited about it, especially with just seeing FILI win against Lucas Almeida, I believe it was, and he's just got he's changed his style a little bit. Before, back when he was fighting Yair Rodriguez when he was coming up, and we were like, okay, who's going to be the next guy? And he had a more exciting, just wild type of style. And now he's kind of reined it in a little bit. He still has that in his bag if he needs it, but he'll wrestle you. Kind of the way that Mark Jacasey kind of changed his style. He'll wrestle you if he needs to, and that is something that Dan Ige is susceptible to. But that's only against the top tier grapplers, the Mazar Evloyev, the Bryce Mitchells, those type of people. And I think he lost against Josh Emmett as well. Like, he's only losing against people that are top tier in grappling. So that being said, I think that Dan Ige does win this one, but Fili's not going to make it easy by any means. And I don't think that there's going to be a finish in this one. I think that it's going to go and I think the Fili might get a round off of him too. I think it might be 29-28. But I would lean Dan Ige. I think the odds probably have him as a slight favorite. And I mean, that would make sense if they do. I think it's actually a far closer fight. And like you said, I think that Dan Ige is a top 10, top 15, closer to the top 10 type of fighter. And I think that Andre Fili is a top 15 fighter too. I think that, more towards the back end of it, but I do think that he's a top 15 fighter as well. And losing this won't help his stock, but I still think that he still deserves, even after this, to get somebody that'll test his skills in top 15. So we'll see.
It's a good fight. I mean, as replacement fights go, it ain't a bad one.
Not at all. Not at all. Murphy's out there already calling for a fight on Twitter/X.
I hate when that happens. I hate when that happens.
It's like,
we might get him fighting.
I thought you was fighting, bro.
Yeah, it's pathetic.
Yeah, because that was the one that was supposed to happen before, wasn't it?
Yeah. Could be a good excuse to get that one going again. Exciting though. I'm looking forward to this co-main event. I think it's going to be decent. All right, now again, I'm going to sound like a massive casual for this. I didn't know this main event was happening either, and it was when we were watching the card last week. When they had the whole when the promo came on. I think it was after the prelims. I did not know that this was happening. When I heard it announced, I thought, we're going to get it in 3 or 4 months. No, it's next week. Next week, bro. I'm going to keep this one quite simple. I don't like this because, as you know, PYFER fucking annoys me. I find it very hard to get behind the. Do you know what it is, bro? I'm just gonna get this out of the way. The reason why I hate this man is I find it very, very difficult to get behind a 25-year-old jacked white male that cries about being unemployed and needing handouts. I just find it. I don't know. It rubs me up the wrong way. Just get a regular job, you bum. Like he kind of came across to me here, like fighting's the only option he's got, and if he couldn't do that, he's just going to be broken. I hate that. Get a job. All right. Now that I've got that out of my system, and I'm gonna take my personal feelings out of this. I think he's gonna fuck Hermansson up really badly. I think he's gonna blitz in. I think he's gonna chin him. I think it's going to be in the first round. And I think he's going to get that first, reputable name on his record. Now, don't get me wrong. He's not going to want to play with Hermansson on the ground, He did have his arm snapped before. But I don't think this is even going to come into play. I think he's going to chin him. I think he's going to follow him to the ground. And then I think he's going to pancake his face into the mat. The UFC obviously wants him to rise. And I think they're giving him the biggest reputable name that can do that for him. He should be fighting Bo Nickel, by the way, which you brought up at the beginning of the year. And I'm still annoyed about that, and I hope we get that fight one day. But I think this is going to be a slaughter.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get that fight. And you know what's like, obviously I think that PYFER's going to win. But what's funny to me is, okay, so PYFER has a main event before Bo Nickel. PYFER is fighting a ranked opponent before Bo Nickel. But yet, everything that you hear is about, well, let's get Bo in there against Khamzat Chimaev. Oh, okay. Why? Like, who has he beaten that would justify something of that nature? Like, who?
Do you know what I think part of it is? I think Bo Nickel does a good job of doing the circuit. You know, like he's been on Joe Rogan, he seems to be popping up on podcast after podcast. And I think the hype that he got off the Contender Series as well. And you know, we've seen PYFER lose, albeit in very, you know, shady. He was unlucky to land on his arm the way that he did and break his arm the way that he did. But I think that has a lot to do with it. I think the way that Bo Nickel was just everywhere has a lot to do with why people know his name a bit more. And PYFER's a little whiny bitch as well. So, sorry, continue.
But I think that I do think that PYFER is, at this point right now, a better fighter than Bo Nickel. And it shows in what the UFC is giving him as far as being a main event. And I mean, I understand it's a main event at, you know, at the backside of the office, but he's still a main event. And so I think that he, like you said, he knocks out the Joker, which is a great nickname, by the way. I like that one.
I like that.
And I like body bags. I like both of them. But I think that he does get this win. He gets ranked before Bo Nickel. And everything that he's doing, it's almost like a LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony situation where you're just looking across and measuring yourself against this person. Only until they meet will we know, you know, the truth about who is the better prospect. But in this one, Joe does his job and walks out of there with a win and a number by his name.
Yeah, I find it very difficult to see it any other way. And again, it sounds like I'm absolutely shitting on Jack Hermansson. I don't think he's a bad fighter at all. I just think PYFER's a monster. And I think he's going to march across and just smash his face in. Actually, I can't see it going any other way. And I think what makes me more confident is PYFER's obviously, when he does get people to the ground now, the ground and pound is solid. He's not the type to just lay there and look for, you know, just hold position. He's looking to take your face off at every opportunity. Yeah. He's vicious. And I think Jack's going to struggle with that.
It almost seems like he's like way bigger than everybody else for the division.
Massive.
It's weird.
He's got a weird body as well. He's got a really weird sort of just body type in general. He seems to be quite long but quite wide. He doesn't look like a middleweight.
No, he looks like a 205 or legit he almost looks like it's very similar to when Alex Pereira, not to that level because Alex is ridiculously big, but it does look similar to when Alex Pereira walks in there and he's fighting at middleweight. You're like, okay, how? It's just insane. But yeah, Joe's gonna do terrible things to the Joker. I feel bad for the Joker because he gets the short end of the stick a lot.
He does.
He signed it.
He signed, yeah. And he probably believes in his mind he's going to get this. He probably sees a path to victory himself, and fair play to him. But yeah, I think this is going to be brutal as well. All right, so what we're going to do first is I'm going to give you an overview of the prelims, which I'm going to show on the screen now. So here's what we all picked for the prelims. I think we were pretty much aligned on that one, with the odd little difference here and there. And followed up here by an overview of the main cards. Again, I think we can agree on this. I think a lot of the fights were pretty easy to pick most of the way. I mean, even the ones we had differences of opinion on were a bit like, I can see where that might happen and that might happen. But I think overall, if you're somebody who bets, and again, I will say bet responsibly, there's value on this one. I think you can find decent value on this, especially. I think the value pick of the card for me is going to be Petrosyan. He's somebody I'm definitely going to be throwing in there. But yeah, I think this is a better card than last week. I'm looking forward to it. So as always, if you guys can, we didn't get much people doing that last week, but if you can throw your picks in, that's always appreciated. As always, before we sign off, is there anything you've got in the pipeline that you want to throw up to mention? Or
yes, absolutely. So last week I got the opportunity to talk to Jillian Robertson, number 15 ranked strawweight. So I got that interview coming up tomorrow, so that'll be on the channel.
Wow,
so
that's a big one.
Look out for that. Yeah, she's dope.
Yeah, she seems like a chill girl. A lot of people seem to find her quite attractive. I don't know if she's my cup of tea, but I get it. There is something about her that's quite. And she, to be fair to her, she's a very decent fighter as well, especially like the submission game. So look out for that one. That should be a really good interview.
Absolutely. We talk a little Mackenzie Dern, by the way. So it's
gonna be an interesting
conversation. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. All right. So I've got a pod coming up. Well, a pod that we already recorded that I'll be releasing on Tuesday. And it's one, again, that addresses a lot of interesting topics. So look out for that one. As always, thanks to everyone who stuck through for the full hour. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you for the pod on Thursday. Get over to Making the Walk MMA for doing a lot of interesting interviews, and there's always a variety to his channel, so check that out. And I'll see you for the reaction as well on Saturday night. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.